Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Council, welcome. Thank you for being here. It is 6 p.m. I'm calling to order the regular City Council meeting for Wednesday, August 5th, 2020. Everyone is present. And before we start, quick explanation about a couple of things. You see the note up here. If you are 6 feet away from people, you don't have to be wearing a mask, but what we did do is we wanted to ensure that we accommodated more people. So in the back row, we have seating that's closer than six feet. So you'll see this sign, but in essence, what we're saying is the seats up here, the first, two rows, are seating that is 6 feet away. So it's optional. You can wear one, you don't have to. But when you're sitting in the back there, you're going to be closer than 6 feet from people, so we need you to adhere to the law and wear a mask. So that's all about. I'm going to ask you to stand. I'm going to read a very quick note, proclamation, and then I'm going to ask for a moment of silence, and then we'll do the pledges. So you don't have to stand for this proclamation reading, and then we'll stand when I ask for the moment of silence. So this is a proclamation. Whereas Pollyanna Pam Smotherman passed from this life on 29 July 2020, whereas the death of Pam does not diminish the profound blessing of a life lived, nor our admiration of and affection for her, and whereas she shared a bright, steady spirit and a cheerful heart with the community of Garden Ridge, and whereas the family and acquaintances of Pam Smotherman are greatly saddened at her departure, as all who are touched by her generous spirit and kindness. And whereas Pam's legacy of faith and service will continue to inspire loved ones and every member of this community, now therefore be it resolved that I, Larry Thompson, Mayor Garden Ridge, call upon citizens of Garden Ridge to celebrate the life of Pollyanna Pam Smotherman and convey our deepest sympathies in witness on this day of August the 5th. This I'm going to give to the family. I'll explain a little bit more of this in a minute, but I'll be giving this to the family tonight. So if you would, please stand and join me in a moment of remembrance for Pam, and then we'll do the pledges. Thank you, everyone. And if you would, join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you, everyone. So before I continue with the agenda, I just want to give everybody a heads up on what's going to happen. Because we probably will not conclude this council meeting by 8:30 to 8:45. At around 8, depending on where we are in the agenda, about 8:40, I'm going to declare a recess. And it's going to give people the opportunity, council as well as anyone else, the opportunity to go down to the Easy Mart. There is a 9 o'clock candlelight vigil for Pam down at the Easy Mart. And so I will recess this council meeting, and then I'm going to, and depending on where we are and everything, but I'll probably declare a 9:30 for a restart. It won't happen any time earlier than 9:30. It could happen a little bit later depending on what's going on, but it won't happen any earlier than that. So just to let everybody know how that's going to transpire. Okay, so that said, now moving on to item number 4, city employee recognitions and employee introductions. Ms. Kane.
A thank you was received from Asa Banks, thanking Officer Corey Hackenberg for taking time to attend her birthday party. We also received a thank you from a resident, Randy Maschek, for the water department. He said they were very responsive, helpful, and super courteous. And the citizens of Garden Ridge really appreciate all they do.
Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to item number 5, citizen comment period. Recall, this is the time that you need to have signed up for. We'll have one at the end as well that you didn't have to sign up for. This is 3 minutes. When you come up to the podium that Jacob is standing at right now, and he's making sure that it's on, making sure that it'll be cleaned in between people. So you don't really need, you shouldn't need to touch anything to maintain the guidelines. But come up, give us your name and address. That doesn't count against your 3 minutes. And recall that that's just your opportunity to speak. We won't be able to exchange and have a dialogue. So the first person on this sign up tonight is Alex Webster.
Hello, my name is Alex Webster. I'm a Life Scout at Troop 828, and I'm here to present my Eagle Scout. My Eagle Scout project is building a trellis and 2 benches for the upcoming butterfly park at Paul Davis Park, and I'm currently presenting it to the city council to try to get it moved on and actually continue to the project. Yep. Thank you.
Anyway, coach him on this. Okay, thank you, Mr. Webster. And next up, I have the second one is Tony Frasco.
First of all, I'd like to issue our prayers for Pam and her family, as you did. It's a shame. It just hurts my heart. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about is the recommended ordinance.
Excuse me, sir.
Oh,
Your name and your address.
Tony Frasco, 8802 Wildwind Park. I'd recommend an ordinance that we have no 24-hour businesses in a state, in a town. We did this in my town that I came from, and it's too vulnerable. We don't need it. There's too many safety issues, whether it be traffic or an incident like this or robberies or whatever. I recommend that the council look at this and pass an ordinance and cut it down to 12 to 5 p.m. for the safety of the people in business. Second of all, stipends. By passing this, we will set a precedence. When people volunteer, they volunteer not for the money, but we do this to benefit our town. This is also not a good thing for higher taxes in the future and water bills. Only $5.73 now, but what will it be? Next issue is garden homes. I feel we need a feasibility study and also an economic study on what this will do to our town. And this should be paid for by the applicant before anything is passed. And I hope you all will do it. The last thing I have is people pay and deserve full police protection. And I'm all for the cops. There's too much nonsense going on, hate cops. This is baloney. We need cops. We need good cops, and we have good cops. But I'm aware of one Sunday that there was one policeman on duty. This is not the way it's done. We pay for full protection. If we're shorthanded, then it has to be made up in overtime or what have you. But I'm demanding police protection and a full tour of regular police 24/7. And maybe in these times with the virus and the rioting and all the nonsense going on and all the hate going on, we need the police, but we need to protect the police too. We have to stand by them. But I will not accept one cop on duty. I will not for the town of Garden Ridge. I thank you very much.
That concludes item number 5. Moving on now to item number 6, the consent agenda. Council, you have a few things that were sent out to you ahead of time. Do I have anybody that wants anything pulled from the consent agenda? Or a motion to approve the consent agenda as published. Doesn't look like anybody has anything to pull, so.
I move we approve the consent agenda as published.
I have from place 4, a motion to approve as published.
Second.
Can I get a second? I get a second from place 2. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. Moving on now to item number 7, staff reports. Again, recall that we've added the continuity of operations, so as we go through the staff reports, anything that's COVID-related about staff, about procedures, equipment, all that kind of thing will be added to their report to keep you informed, council, of what's going on. So first I'll turn to 7A, which is city administrator.
The only thing that I would like to add to my report is that at the July 1st City Council meeting, we had a resident who spoke during citizen comments and concerns about the building at 19877 Back Cave Road not being connected by concrete to the main structure. This building is connected. It is connected by concrete by means of the concrete driveway. So the structure is connected. Also, on July 22nd, City Council filed a proposed fiscal year 2021 budget with the city secretary. And on August 13th at 6 p.m., the City Council will be conducting the budget public hearing and adoption of the budget.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions for the city administrator on her portion, starting left side?
I would now like to call on our finance HR, Karen Ford, to report on her department and continuity.
Sorry, logistics. The last couple of months, I've given you guys a spreadsheet for you to look at. I'm going to do things a little different this time because I wanted to talk about some of the funding that we've received from the federal government. I applied for funding from the Coronavirus Relief Fund, which was administered through the federal government, and it will go from them to TDM. TDM has awarded us, or the federal government, $226,655, and that's to deal with the COVID extra expenses that we have. You cannot use it to cover any shortfalls of revenue. So it's just for payroll and other expenses that we've had. So far, in the first installment they gave us is $45,331. Sitting in our account, and we're looking for spending that. So far with the hours that I've pulled together for Public Works and PD, and these are not final numbers yet, they will increase. This is strictly just the payroll number. We're allowed to allocate benefits to this, and that hasn't been done yet, but that's about $20,600. And then the expenses we've had so far, about $15,500, so we've got about $36,000, a little over $36,000 that we can apply to the $45,000 right away. So that's gonna leave us about $190,000 that we need to do something with. And what we have to remember with this money, we have to use it for public health and safety. So we keep that in the back of our mind, and as long as we adhere to that, we can use it. So we've thrown out some ideas, and I want to just let you know what those are, because what I'm asking you guys to do is to kind of think about areas that maybe we could use some of these funds. So what we've come up with so far is touchless soap dispensers in the bathrooms, touchless faucets in all the bathrooms, and this would include the park area, also the library, all the buildings, auto flush toilets. And all these things are hot spots where people touch a lot, so there's a chance to spread the disease that way. So automatic doors for the front of City Hall and for the library. We kind of talked about automatic doors here. I don't know if that's feasible or not, but just to throw that out there. Foggers for the cars and the rooms, because our staff is spending a lot of time cleaning the rooms after meetings. PD has to clean their cars after each shift or anytime they have someone in the car with them. So that takes up a lot of time. Touchless water fountains, touchless bottle fillers, maybe out the park. I just found out this morning that we have a truck that has been dedicated to the big tub that has the chemicals in it for the guys to spray the park. So we may be able to get a truck for that. And then the Zoom meeting cost, and we have to go to virtual court, so there'll be some cost associated with that. So that's what we've come up with. So I'm really asking you guys to think about other areas that maybe we can use some of these funds, and if you have any ideas, please give me a call. That's all.
Thank you very much. Starting over the right side, questions, comments on what Ms. Ford just covered? Please write to her, call her, send a carrier pigeon if you have any thoughts, any questions. And no question is too silly or trivial, and because you might strike on something that we haven't thought about, and we certainly would like to take advantage of this program. Did you start to raise your hand? I'm sorry.
Yes, I was turning my mic on.
Okay, go ahead.
First of all, thank you for thinking of that, applying, and congratulations on the award. I credit you for that. Is there a deadline as to when this must be spent?
Yes, we have to spend it all and file it by December 30th of this year.
Okay, thank you.
And council, we'll put this on the agenda as a discussion item, so if you like, instead of just, if you want, of course, by all means, communicate to Ms. Ford, but if you want to have a discussion about it, we'll put it on the agenda so we can have an open meeting discussion about any of this stuff as well. This is an opportunity, it's a tremendous opportunity. I mean, you heard some of the things, faucets and fountains and stuff like that we can take advantage of, and we by all means should. So we'll be turning over things, looking, and we'll be having some discussions about this. So Karen, thank you very much.
I'd like to have it on the agenda for next month,
We will, yes, sir.
or the next meeting if you want to.
And ma'am, back to you.
Oh, okay. I was thinking about what had been said. Now, Marissa Spencer, our city secretary, will update you on admin.
So the operations within admin haven't changed much from my last update. The lobby's still open from 9 to 12. We're available by appointments anytime between 8 and 5. We've still been working on the ability to have our telephone and video conference meetings. We had DDS in here yesterday, actually. They installed our all-in-one system in the conference room. So that is almost ready to go. I've been working on the Zoom account so we can be able to do virtual council and or commission meetings. Pretty close to having that down, just basically a matter of testing at this point. I want to test it a couple of times, make sure it functions how I think it's going to function before we just try and implement it. Otherwise, everything has been running pretty smoothly.
Great, thank you. Starting left side, questions or comments from Ms. Spencer? Thank you. And City Administrator, anything else?
No, sir.
Next up is 7B, Police Report. Chief.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I have a few things to add to the report, and most of it is just explanations and drawing out on some of these topics that we have up there. First of all, I'd like to let you know about the alarm permits and the process. We had sent out almost 400 letters for renewals of alarm permits. There was some confusion and issues with the contact on that. We realized that we didn't provide enough public education after the change of the ordinance in 2018. So I'm drafting another letter to send out to everybody and let them know what the ordinance number is, update it, Apologize for the confusion, how they need to go about it in the future. We'll also, here in November, start putting that information out through the city's webpage, Grapevine, so on and so forth, reminding everybody that they need to renew them in January so we don't have all this confusion next year. So we'll get that taken care of. Also, following that, we've had a busy week. The next issue that I'd like to bring up is everybody heard about the issue on Timmerman Cove. We served a drug search warrant over there. So basically what occurred there is we received some information from some residents about some activity in that area. The officers were able to follow up, develop some probable cause on a stop. We worked somebody, got some information, drafted a search warrant, served a search warrant over on Timmerman Cove. Result of that search warrant was basically we recovered several tabs of acid, a bunch of prescription pills, and approximately 100 canisters of THC, condensed THC oil that they put into vape pens and use for that. So each one of those is technically a separate felony charge. So we charged him with 4 felony counts on the young man that was living there. He had a girlfriend there who was a juvenile. She was released to parents, and the charges are being filed through juvenile probation on her as well. We're trying to deal with this. We've dealt with this young man before a couple of times, and it's unfortunate. He is currently still in jail on bond, and in the last 2 years, he has 18 felony counts against him right now. And with the way that the court systems are going, none of his cases have gone to trial yet. Therefore, he keeps getting issued bond and being released, and we keep dealing with him. So we're hoping we can get him tucked away for a while and get him out of our hair. Moving on to the next topic, which is, we were talking about earlier, the Easy Mart incident. Basically, the information I'm going to give out on that is what we've given out to the public. We had, at about 3 o'clock in the morning, last Wednesday morning, we had a black male in his 20s to 30s come into Easy Mart. He was brandishing a weapon as soon as he came in. He demanded that the clerk empty the register, give him all the lottery tickets, and she complied, was giving him everything he wanted. When he received what he wanted, unfortunately, he did shoot the clerk and flee the store. The victim, Mrs. Pam Smotherman, did pass away, was pronounced at the scene because of her injuries. We're receiving leads through both calls at the office and through Crime Stoppers. And each one of those leads have to be followed up on individually. So we're working on them. I can't really give you any other information than that right now without jeopardizing an active investigation. So we are actively doing that and handling all of those at one time. In addition to that, let's move on to court. I'll give everybody opportunity to ask any questions. We had another successful municipal court last week. We had nobody turned away for COVID symptoms. Everything ran smooth. We've got the system down, and now it's going to change. So the state has decided everything will go virtual. So we have canceled court in August so that we can make new arrangements to now figure out how to do everything through virtual and Zoom and recording. So there will be no on-site August municipal court. So that's just something else we have to move along with COVID. And last and certainly not least is we are still actively seeking employment for officers. We've had several tests over the last couple of weeks. We have a couple of applicants we're looking at. We're going to start some preliminary backgrounds on them, be doing some scenario testing and physical agility. So hopefully we can move forward and somebody can pan out. We can keep on the process with that. So that's what we've been doing for the last few days. Do I have any questions, please?
Thanks, sir. Starting over on the left side, questions or comments for the police department?
No, thank you.
Tell everybody to keep up the good work.
I'll do it.
All right. With the the spots that you have open on the force, have we ever gotten in a situation where we don't have 2 officers on duty at one time?
Yes, we have.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's understandable because we're short some officers. But on your monthly breakdown, you said one of your challenges was keeping the morale excuse me, and mental status healthy for the officers? Is your group okay? I'm there with all the negative things that are happening throughout the country.
It's tough, yes, with all the negative publicity and everything going on. However, with the meeting with the mayor and understanding that the residents here and the council are not looking to defund and do that sort of thing helps. We are having to work some additional hours and overtime because of the shortages, but I've also brought our chaplain in, offered some services for everybody, so we're doing okay. It's an ongoing thing that we have to keep on the forefront and keep managing to keep everybody going in the right direction.
I pass on to them, I guess, if you can, not just what I have to say, but you know that about 100% of the citizens of this community are behind them. All the council and the mayor are behind. We are not going to reduce our police force whatsoever. And if there's anything we can do to help ease their minds, right now, I don't think there's a safer place to be employed as a police officer than the city of Garden Ridge. And the job stability is there, and we have the finest group of people, I think, in the entire area. So
Thank you.
just make sure that they know we're behind them 100%.
Thank you. And feel free to, when you see them out there,
No, we will.
mess with them. Give them a
Thank
good
you.
word.
Thanks.
Thanks. Ma'am?
Just thank you, and I have complete faith in you and your officers.
Thank you.
I ditto that, but I do have a question. We're down one officer.
We're down two.
Two officers. How are the area police departments doing? Are they having trouble finding?
Everybody is, yes, sir. Right now, I haven't talked to them in the last couple of weeks, but in the recent past, New Braunfels was down close to 40. The county was down almost 20, if I remember correctly. Everybody's down. There's just a shortage of people wanting to get into this profession right now because of everything that's going on.
Thank you, Chief. And something he didn't mention is that not only are they doing the activities, but they're also the coordinating and lead agency in some of these where there are and have been other agencies involved. Comal County Sheriff's Task Force, some folks, state folks, and they're helping, and we're thanking them a lot for the help. But it also doesn't happen not by itself. So our PD and our chief being the leader of the group as this is happening, like with the drug bust and also with the investigation that's ongoing. So that's one more thing. But thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you.
Moving on now to item number 7C, Public Works. Mr. Lohman, welcome.
Hello. Happy to be here. Nothing to add to the Public Works report, but a few things to highlight. Playground sanitation still continues. The disinfection of the equipment happens daily. We've rented a stump grinder for the week, so we are currently at Davis Park grinding down all the trip hazards that are existing in the ground. That's moving forward. Morale is good, and we currently have 3 dogs and no cats. And having no cats is a good thing.
It sure is. This is one of the dogs. Which dog is this?
That is, kids have named him Tramp because he's a pain.
We don't have pictures of the other two?
I have sent in pictures of the other 2, but they're not on this report.
Okay. We'll get them up next time. Well, hopefully we won't have to because they'll be gone.
Yes, hopefully.
Somebody will have a home for them.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Questions, comments for Public Works, starting on the right side?
Do you have any feeling on how much the park is being used compared to 6 months or a year ago?
I can tell you that there have been instances where we have come to disinfect and there are people present and we're not going to kick them out to do it. And it's happening regularly. So it is being utilized on a regular basis.
Okay.
Yes, I'd like to thank Mr. Lohman for not coming to my house and telling me where I'm going to quarantine 4 dogs. I discovered an MIA bat in my yard, and fortunately it was dead. Fortunately it was not rabid, because I said, what would be the next step? And he said, I'd be at your house telling you where you have to put your 4 dogs. And I said, and then where would I be? So fortunately, all the way around, not rabid, and we're all happily living together.
Remember.
And I'll move before I call you about the next one.
Very good. Remember, confinement is not quarantine. They're 2 separate things.
I understand that. I think you said
It
something
wouldn't
about
have been as
I think you
bad.
told me put one in the shower stall and the other one in another shower stall and so on, yeah. But all the way around, no,
Yes, ma'am.
no
Good
rabbit
outcome.
bat, so thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And I also want to point out that the success, the significant success of what we've done with the court for the last two times is also can be attributed to Water and Public Works and as well. Public Works making sure, and you know, they're the ones that are making sure this place is ready for you tonight. But during the court, having folks coming in, the last time we had our temp in there, our summer hire, I should say, and he was the one that was the full-time cleaner in here. But that is a big part of making it successful as successful as it's been. So thank you. Moving on to item number 7D, Water Department. Mr. Parsons.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, so some things to highlight. It's summer and it's hot. I'm sure everyone knows that. There is something good that's come out of the summer, and that is one of our the employees of Garden Ridge, Chris Graff, has become a father. So just want to let you guys know that. If you see him, tell him congratulations, please. On the report, you can see that it's summer again and it's hot and we're using more water. We're also offsetting some of the Edwards water with the Trinity, and we'll continue to do that throughout the next couple months. August, we should see an increase even further with the water use. So we are required to take samples every month for back T samples, and you can see here that we had one positive, and what happens is these are very sensitive samples, and when we had taken our sample, the wind was blowing. The smallest little thing that gets in there could offset these, could set these off. So we went ahead and resampled, sent them all in. We came back negative, so all those were good. And then we also were required to test our raw water wells. And we found, and when we test our raw water wells, we test them before the chlorination happens. So we had 2 positive hits on the total coliform there. But after you chlorinate them, it disinfects all that and it goes away. So we are clear with the state. I want to highlight also we had 5 meter replacements. That's a little higher than usual. We see about 2. We had one of them, one of the meters that was broken and was leaking because of the actual physical break of the meter. And then the other 4 were dead completely or have gone backwards in the reading. We have not had to date a meter that has ever ran forward while the water was off. So I just want to highlight that. Also, we had a hole in the column pipe for well number 9, which cut through the electrical cable. Everything has been ordered, and we're getting ready to put that back in the ground. You can see the cable right there. The water shot through and hit the cable, and it is ready. We'll have that ready to go in the ground, hopefully in the next couple weeks if everything continues on schedule. And lastly, this past billing cycle, we had some bills that were calculated with only 2 days of water use, resulting in low water bills. Once we assessed the situation, we took the daily average water use and only charged for the same billing period. with that, I'll answer any questions.
I didn't know if you were done. You're just looking at me. I thought you were done, but I wanted you to tell me that.
I appreciate it.
Starting over on the left side, questions or comments for our water manager?
Nope.
Sir, ma'am. Sir. And again, your folks as well, helping with all the COVID precautions that we're taking, and a lot going on. I'm also going to highlight a couple things that you heard, but somehow we get these urban legends that people have their water turned off and their meters are running still, or their meters are failing and telling them that they've used much more water than they did, and we have zero actual record or facts of any of that happening. The level of proof to be able to put it out there and tell people that is pretty low. The level of proof for us to prove that it isn't happening is pretty high, and we can prove that it hasn't been happening. The water folks are working extra hard, taking care of a new baby and taking care of our water. But really appreciate all that our water department's doing right now. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Moving on to item number 7E, library.
Thank you. Am I on?
Ms. Crossen.
Okay.
It's yours.
I do have one thing to add to my report, and it's something that Councilwoman Bowers suggested that I mention. I do feel a lot of people know this, but perhaps some don't. I had a volunteer named Nina Bratianu. She's been coming for 4.5 years to volunteer. She had COPD, and she finally had to go onto oxygen full time. She used to come to the library, and she would have to sit and catch her breath for maybe 5 or 10 minutes just because of the walk inside from her car. But she still wanted to come. She loved Garden Ridge and wanted to serve it. She finally got to the point she couldn't come in anymore because she had heart problems as well as lung problems, and she was in and out of rehab clinics during those a couple of years. I think the last time she was in the library was probably January or February of 2019. At the end of June, she was found by her housekeeper on her floor of her bedroom, and she was unable to get up. So they got her up, and she did go back into rehab. Unfortunately, she went to the Heights of Bulverde. Now, I don't know if you've read about that facility, but as of July 15th, they had 57 cases of COVID just there. 33 residents and 24 staff, and 7 diagnosed have died. When we got word that Nina had pneumonia, she was in the hospital, we thought, oh, with her physical condition, it did not sound good. And sure enough, it was actually COVID. And she passed away July 2nd, the day after our last council meeting. As you can see up there, that's a copy of the plaque that we had made. It's over here on this table where the agendas are. We want to put it up in the library to honor this wonderful, doesn't she have the most beautiful smile? She had this soft way, but she was very intelligent. She added so much, and she will be greatly, greatly missed. Do you have any questions for the library or anything?
Thank you, ma'am. Starting over on the right side, questions, comments from the library? Ma'am.
She was a terrific woman. Thank you for honoring her like that.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Ms. Crossland. Moving on to item number 8, City Engineer Projects Status Report. Mr. Lackey, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. First project to talk about is 2252. We're continuing to work with TxDOT. We had several meetings in the month of July, and last Friday we had a one-on-one conversation with the TxDOT engineers to go over specifics of Garden Ridge utilities that are in the 2252 right-of-way, and we got a number of items clarified that things did not need to be relocated and better clarification. And so we're continuing to work through that and with all the utilities and get a final tabulation of what utilities work will need to be done in the right-of-way, what that budget will be, and report that back to the city. So we're getting very close to being able to get you a final report on that. Any questions on 2252?
Left side, questions, 2252.
Okay.
Thank you. Go ahead.
2252, on the wastewater project, got a number of items here before you. Anyway, we're prepared to advertise and take bids, tentatively scheduled for the 21st of August, and be bringing back recommendations to the council at your September meeting. So the action items, Mary, do it one at a time. The first one will be solicitation of force main. This is about 9,000 feet of variable size force main, serving, as we've talked about previously, a large part of Garden Ridge, the 2252 area. This will be for the installation of that pipeline in the ground and functional. So council action to basically approve us. I think you previously authorized that action, but just to make it formal. The other two items.
Let's just take them one at a time. Since there are separate action items, and it'll probably be easier for everybody to get it this way.
Any questions on the wastewater line installation?
So council, what's going to happen is there's 3 separate solicitation of bids. And on these 3 separate ones, it'll require y'all to vote to go ahead and authorize these solicitations. So the first one is the one that Mr. Lackey just described. And then we got 2 other ones after that, but again, we'll take them one at a time. So this was sent to you, and I'll ask, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Lackey on this one? And absent any questions, if anyone would like to make a motion to authorize this solicitation of bids.
I move to authorize solicitation of item, whatever that is, AV 1.1, whatever.
Force
The
main.
first one?
The force main, yes.
The Force Main Sanitary Sewer Project,
Perfect.
please.
So I have a motion for place 5 to authorize the solicitation. Can I get a second?
Second.
I got place 3 with a second. Any further discussion or questions? Right side, left side. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. Now let's go to 8B 1.2. Go ahead, Ms. Lackey.
So this is for solicitation of bids for grinder pump installations. Again, this is a pressure sewer system. We'll take bids for basically a call service where we'll have established bid prices for a 3-year period. And then as individuals are ready to have sewer installed, we'll have an established cost for the equipment and that installation, as well as for on-call services for any emergency items necessary for the grinder system or the pressure sewer system as we begin operations. So again, we're ready to take bids on that and bring back final cost numbers to the council.
Okay, council, so to be clear, the first one that you just approved was for the actual lines itself. Now we're talking about the service agreement and the equipment at the actual service addresses themselves. You know, we've talked about how we may modify it in the future on the service agreement, but right now we're looking for more of a turnkey kind of approach to be able to minimize the impact on city staff and all that. So this is the second one. It's the solicitation of bids for supplying goods and special services for all of that you see there listed. Any questions to Mr. Lackey, our engineer? And absent any questions, can I get a motion?
I move we accept or authorize the solicitation of bids for section 1.2.
Okay, I got a motion to authorize this solicitation for the supply goods, special services for grinder pump and equipment, et cetera, in item 8B1 1.2. Can I get a second?
Second.
Got place one with a second. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. Go ahead, Ms. Lackey.
Final item is 1.3, solicitation for on-call services for bulk wastewater hauling, pumping and hauling service. And we've made arrangements with CCMA with our existing contract for disposal services, but we need a on-call provider to be able to transport that wastewater that is generated. So again, we'll take solicitations and bring that back to the council for further evaluation.
Thanks, sir. And council, we've discussed this in the past, and you know that what the arrangement is and the reason why we have to do this, at least for the time being. So that's why it's a separate solicitation. So if does anybody have any questions for Mr. Lackey on this item, left side, right side?
Not this item in particular, but how long, what's the timeline on the bids? You put them out there, and how long do they have to?
We're planning to accept the bids on the 21st of August.
Okay.
We'll bring them to the September meeting. They'll be good for 120 days after the bid opening.
Great, thank you.
And on the documents, it also says how long they'll actually be advertised, each one of them. So all of that stuff's on there. Okay, good, great question. Anything else over here? Okay. So absent any other questions, can I get a motion to authorize this solicitation?
I move to authorize the solicitation of bids regarding special services for bulk wastewater pumping, hauling, and disposal.
I get a motion to authorize the solicitation in item 1.3 from place 2. Can I get a second?
Second.
Place 5 with a second. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It is unanimous. All right, all three of them are ready to go out.
Yes, sir. Thank you, council. Appreciate it.
And any other questions while he's standing there at the SOTA podium for our engineer, left side?
Thanks for stepping this up.
Yes,
Appreciate
sir. We'll get you some numbers and we'll be back to talk about them. Introduce Chris Clark, is one of our engineers, has been working heavily on these city projects. So thank you very much. Good evening.
Sir. Thanks, sir. Moving on to item number 9, City Commission Committee Reports, Recommendations, Possible Actions. 9A is Planning and Zoning. Dr. Miller is here. Welcome, Dr. Miller. Have not had a meeting since the last time we met, but has been doing a lot of work and had a tech, I think, did we ever figure out whether or not there was a
We
tech
had no
meeting?
formal P&Z meeting.
Yes.
We did have a technical subcommittee meeting.
But nevertheless, been doing a lot of work. So hand it over to you, sir.
Yeah, we had a technical subcommittee meeting, and we think we have a final product to go back to P&Z and arrange for the strategic committee to figure out how we're going to present it to city council and move ahead with it. I don't know if anybody's been counting. This has been a 2-year plus project. I remember it was June of 2018, I believe, when we started this rewrite. So we're excited about it, and we think we're through. Also, although we didn't have a formal meeting, I understand things are about to pick up, looking at the agenda for next week, and I think the city administrator is going to speak to that a little bit. Any questions?
Over the right side, questions for planning and zoning.
I was looking over your planning and zoning fees that you all published, or at least gave to us. They look a little bit low. I'm sure you all did as much as you possibly could about putting these together. But it's in 3 sections. It's on page 11. I don't expect to have that in your hand right now, so that's no big deal. But it starts off with the planning and zoning fees. It goes from anywhere from variance for zoning all the way through special use permits. I think that's low by about 100%. And then you go on to platting fees for residential and platting fees for commercial. I think those appear low by about 25%. What did you base all this? Not that I'm being critical at all, it's just I think that these are extremely low.
I'm not privy to to what background we had for the fees, but we can certainly take a look at them again, and I can probably better answer it next month. or
City
before.
Administrator, I think you have some more information on that. Go ahead.
I believe that the fee schedule that you're looking at is part of Ordinance 11 that was amended by the council for the flagpole permit. The Planning and Zoning will be looking at revising the fees as we get closer to the finalization of the zoning ordinance rewrite.
Okay, so we'll have some input on those fees, or not?
Those fees will be part of that ordinance rewrite, and that ordinance will be coming to city council. So yes, you will have input into it.
Yeah, the short answer on two accounts is, one is you're looking at the old one, and two is you absolutely have a vote on what the new fees will be when they bring the ordinance to you.
Okay, I just assumed because we had it in this month's packet, we were looking at something revised.
The only thing that was revised was the flagpole.
Okay, all right, thanks.
I'm sorry, okay, where are we? Anything for, sir, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to see you. He doesn't get out much lately. Next up is item 9B, Corey, and,
Do you want me to talk about the?
oh,
public
yes,
hearings?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Part of 9A is to discuss the intricacies of the scheduling of the public hearings for a petition that was given to the city. So Ms. Kane is going to go ahead and detail that. Go ahead, please.
As you're aware, we do have a petition for garden home development here in the city. Planning and Zoning will be conducting the first rounds of public hearings on Tuesday evening at 6 o'clock. They will be considering variances that would be associated with that petition, as well as a special use permit. Then on Thursday night, August the 13th, City Council will be conducting a public hearing, or public hearings as well, on the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation concerning the variance request through that petition, as well as a special use petition for the garden home development. I would encourage council to watch the Planning and Zoning streaming of that meeting prior to your meeting on the 13th.
Okay, thank you. Right side questions for Ms. Kane on that. I do want to add something to this, and that is, number one, that Thursday meeting is actually more than just that
Yes.
public hearing. There's a whole bunch, there's a lot going on in that meeting, the meeting that's our meeting, the council meeting. The other thing is that a standard practice for us is if we know that kind of thing's coming down, for us to come in here and attend the Planning and Zoning public hearing. It helps us, we get a lot more on step about what's going on before you consider what they're presenting. The issue with that, obviously, is with COVID, our spacing is very, our seating, our space is very limited. So that's why Ms. Kane mentioned watching it on video, because if we come in here and fill the room, and if you happen to get here first, you end up displacing somebody that wants to come to the public hearing. So consider that. We're not saying you can't come. It's your decision. You're also a citizen of this community, but just consider. But also, if you watch the video, it will help you to get up on step 2. So that's why we're saying that. Okay, thank you, Ms. Kane.
You're welcome.
9B is Corey. The Corey Commission has not had a meeting since the last time we met, but there has been an action. It was in your package. I shouldn't say there has been an action. There's an action that we're being asked to take here, you're being asked to take. And that is we have a commissioner, Commissioner Dubois. He and family have moved out of the community, and as you see here up on the screen. And since Corey didn't have a meeting and won't have a meeting for a while, wanted to be able to release him as much as that is a release, but also be able to advertise for the position and do all that. So in discussions with Chairman Holly, he both has the knowledge and recommended that we just go ahead and accept it here at this body. So what I will ask you now is to take action on the resignation of Commissioner Mark Dubois from the Quarry Commission. If I can get a motion.
Motion we accept his resignation.
Motion for place 3, can I get a second?
Second.
Place 1 with a second. Any further discussion or questions?
Yeah, yes, sir. I'd like to thank thank him for his service on that. Not only that, but also he did quite a bit, as we all know, I think, with the Lions Club as well. So best of luck to him. Thank you.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, past president of, he was a big supporter of our community, and it's a big loss that he and his family moved. So I got a place 3, place 1. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to item 9C, Water Commission. I don't believe he's got anything to talk about. Water Commission's had one meeting and have some recommendations. A lot of action with the Water Commission, and Mr. Chairman Valdez is here. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, council members. Have a couple items I need action on. First one is a water leak adjustment for 9296 Garden Ridge Drive for the period of April 23rd, 2020 to May 21st, 2020. The customer discovered the leak, and you have the report, so I'll just briefly go over it. On May 7th, they weren't able to get a plumber out to May 20th. They weren't able to shut off the water flow for the source. They couldn't find out where the actual cutoff valve was. They made the repairs and later found out they had a major water bill. Unfortunately, they didn't contact water department for a leak adjustment request until 30 days after, June 11th. So when the water department went out to get laptop readings, they were after the leak was repaired. So we have no data. Historically, the customer has used anywhere from 4,000 to 18,000 gallons over the last 2 years. And the 18,000 gallons, I'll point out, was also a leak, but they weren't aware of the leak adjustment. But even if they did apply for leak adjustment, it would have been a $5 or so credit. It was not much. But anyway, the Water Commission had consensus that there was a leak. There was evidence of a leak and it was repaired. And we used the water manager's suggestion. He couldn't make a recommendation because he had no data. But he suggested that we use the highest monthly consumption of 18,000 gallons to calculate the credit, and there's it before you. It's a $772 credit for a leak of 83,000 gallons. So I turn it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, sir. Thanks, sir. And starting over on the right side, questions or comments on this recommendation from the Water Commission on this leak adjustment? Sir. Ma'am.
This is a generalized question, perhaps it's not proper, but you brought up the point about the laptop. Is there any reason we can't update or upgrade or update software that it goes back more than 30 days? Would there be?
I'll turn it over to Mr. Parsons, but there's our meter capability has only 30 days.
It can only
The
store
radio
30 days worth of
collector
data.
system.
That's why. it's
Okay, well,
30
that's
days.
why. Thank you.
Yeah, basically that's
Do you
it.
have anything to add to that? We answered the question
Yeah.
before you could turn on the mic.
No,
Yeah.
that's good, thank you.
Yeah, that's the reason why. Keep in mind that, what we're looking at, we'll be able to do a lot
Yeah,
farther back than that.
and that's the bigger.
Our
that's
current
the-
state.
Yeah, that's the biggest issue with our current system is, well, it's one.
One of the issues, yes.
One of the issues.
Anything else, ma'am? So it's up to you, council, for action on this first water leak adjustment recommendation from the Water Commission.
I move to approve the water leak adjustment for 9296 Garden Ridge Drive.
I have a motion from place 2 to do the water leak adjustment for 9296 Garden Ridge Drive for, I assume you're agreeing with $770.01.
Yes.
Okay, can I get a second, please?
Second.
Place 1 with a second. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you for explaining that, sir. Go ahead with item 9C,
Okay, our second item that we have is Advanced Watering Infrastructure System, AMI we refer to, and Meter Data Management System. And you should have received a PowerPoint slide sometime last week that explained all the history and things the Water Commission has been looking at for the last several months. I don't know if you need me to go through any of that, or I can just turn it over. But basically, we're after is to go out for solicitation for bids also, along with that our city engineers have put together for us. So right now, this is just to go out for bids. Again, the mayor mentioned earlier, our water meters are reading correctly. It's the radios and collectors that are the problems with getting data and getting the correct data. We have 40 meters that are not, the radios are not transmitting, so we have to go and read them manually. And those are going out more and more. If we lose a collector, it's obsolete. We can't get a replacement for it. We have to buy a new system and new radios. And that'll be close to $300,000 cost if we just go back to maintaining what we have. But in the meantime, if the collector goes out, our water department will be taking 1,600 plus manual readings to maintain our system, what we have right now. So we go back to the old way of doing it. So I'll turn it over back to you, Mr. Mayor, for any questions and action.
Okay, so your recommendation, to be clear, I don't want to put words in your
Yeah.
mouth. Your recommendation is?
Our recommendation is for the council to approve us going out for, or the city engineers to go out for solicitation of bids, advertising the bids, and it'll be the same timing as the other bids that engineers will be going to. So we'll hopefully bring them back to the Water Commission at the end of the month, and then bring it back to City Council next month.
And council, you have that in your, the package as well, all the bid documents, the advertisement for the bids, all that stuff as well. And the engineer is here. The engineer helped us with this, of course. So either Water Commission or the engineers can answer any questions that you have. So that said, do you have any questions? Left side. Mike, please.
You said the deadline would be concurrent with what you proposed,
Yes.
August 21st or something?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Sir? Sir?
By any chance, was this in the budget for the water department?
It's not in the budget, but
It
it
is.
was discussed as a way to fund it using reserve funds, and then.
That was, and I'm going to jump in. Remember, that was a slide that I showed you that said how we were going to pay for it.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Couple questions. The one that's being replaced has been around 6 to 7 years.
And it's already obsolete.
And, we spent a bunch of money on it.
Correct.
Is there anything in the wind that will make this new one obsolete in 6 or 7 years?
That's kind of things we put in the terms, requirements that, we can do that. Can one of y'all speak to that better?
Come on up, Mr. Lackey. Go ahead and help me answer that one, please.
Yes, sir. So we're taking bids on the AMI system, it's the latest technology. We're asking in the bids, they're an evaluated bid based on not only cost, but capital costs, but life cycle costs, history of operation, installations. So, there's nothing in the wind that would look like it's replacing it. This is the metering system that most cities are going to, and good accuracy and should prove good service to the city. So
This is there anything where it can be upgradable, so to speak? 5, 6 years from now? Because this other one's obsolete after 6 years being in. Well, we won't go there.
I'm going to jump in here because I want to explain something else that happened. And when we went with the system that we have now, there were AMIs out there, but they were really expensive. And this may not be a great analogy, but it's kind of like if you would have bought an LED TV 8 years ago, it would have cost tens of thousands of dollars, and now you can buy it for a couple $100s. So a lot of this technology was really expensive. So it was the leading edge when we were replacing and putting in in the ground what we have now. And it just was cost prohibitive. But now they've been promulgated through the United States. They're much more affordable. And so, but it's certainly not like buying, a Sylvania tube color TV, to stick with my analogy. This is something that people are still buying. And even when we bought the other one, we knew that this existed, but it was such a pipe dream to say we could read meters without having to go to the meters. Because again, we keep saying this, the meters we have work. The problem is to retrofit them to be able to use an AMI system would cost so much, we might as well just go lock, stock, and barrel and upgrade the entire system.
Yeah, I do remember talking to Royce about this AMI system, and he mentioned like $2 million.
Yeah, it was easily
Yeah.
3 times what it costs now. And we experience that in our lives all the time, so.
You have a list of a dozen cities, Church, Cibolo, Live Oak, around here. Are any of the big cities into this yet? Or because most of these are pretty small.
San Antonio's doing it somewhat. Austin is, Dallas, Houston. I mean, there are a lot of cities going to this. So, yes, it's widespread, nationwide, internationally. So,
Okay, thank you.
again, we're going to take the bids. We're going to solicit the bids. We'll evaluate them, bring them to the Water Commission, bring them back to council, and then council will have final decision on how we proceed. But let's get some numbers. Jacob, you wanted to have a few words?
Yeah, I just wanted to, there was the different individuals that we've looked at, the different systems. A lot of them, the majority of them, when they upgraded their system and they had software updates, they also made sure to not outsource or negate or not be able to use the old equipment. So when they did upgrades, they made sure to have software for everything that we're putting in, old and new. So that's one thing that we did look at. So this did not happen again when we looked at all the different systems that were out there.
I do have one question. In the information here, it mentioned iPearl. Will we be going through them? Or will it just be someone independent? Are we getting bids for the various, from the various manufacturers? There are about a half dozen listed.
The subcommittee had met with 5 different vendors, including iPearl. We talked to them, 5 different vendors. They'll be sent directly information to bid. Plus, it'll be publicly available. It goes when it's advertised. It gets published in different places. So hopefully, get more than just those 5. So yeah, you go in the library of some sort, and so it gets out there nationwide.
So the ones that you see listed, that was some of the education process. We didn't want to go in this without, so we used them to get a lot of information to learn more about the systems and what was available and what the technology that was available, so then we could turn that into what we are soliciting to then turn it back out to the world.
And like Mr. Lackey said, we're not just looking at the base cost. We're looking at the cost over a 20-year lifespan. So looking at the annual fees and life expectancy as a whole thing. So we're sure that, somebody doesn't underbid and get in there and then charge us more in the long run.
That's right.
So we'll be looking at all that.
Well done. Any other questions?
Yes, sir. Sorry, I forgot to ask this. Do we have any anticipation of how complicated or whatever to train first our staff, and then how would we train the public if we in fact go with the system?
If we get the system, well, there is a training available that we're asking for available. It should be pretty easy to get for our utility clerk to get in there and start using the system. The customer portal will have some training for that too. That'll be available. And we're asking for the customer portal to be bid separately. So to see where we are also on that. We're kind of hoping that we can get a good deal on the customer portal, because that's the way we can really educate our customers to be able to know and track their daily water consumption. So it'd be just like going online right now to look at your electric bill. your CPS, you know, something similar to that. Except on CPS, there's not an app. This will have an app that you can use on your phone, as well as.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so looking for a motion to authorize the solicitation of bids for this system.
Move to approve.
Okay, I have a motion from place one to authorize the solicitation of bids for the AMI and MDMS systems. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second from place four. And any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. Mr. Valdez, Chairman Valdez, excuse me, thank you very much for the work. And council, there's been a small group, non-quorum-ish group that's been working on it. And the guy hiding way over in the corner over there, Commissioner Jim Mueller, also has been working on this and applying a lot of expertise to it as well. So really appreciate all that y'all have done to bring it to your commission and then tee it up for these folks here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And do you have anything for item number 4, monthly activity?
Just further discussion, we had two other water leaks we reviewed and made recommendations to the city administrator to take action on. Other things we have, Mr. Clark, city engineer, presented the commission with an engineer overview of the wastewater project. So we're up to speed on that. That has good questions the commissioners asked on that. Update on commission projects. We have a group of 2 commissioners working on ordinances 54, 61, and 159, and hope to bring you some updates on those in future meetings. Source and Supply Management Subcommittee will be meeting with the city administrator to discuss water leases that are scheduled to expire in December, so we come up with a plan later on this year. And we added another project to the list of projects for 2020 that's actually being involved with the wastewater project, and we had Commissioners Haldeman and Dr. Carmichael volunteer to work on that. Our next meeting is August 25th, Tuesday, 6 p.m. right here. That's all. Mr. Mayor, turn it back to you.
Questions or comments for the Water Commission, left side?
No, just thank you again for all your work.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Next up is item 9D. Wildlife Management Advisory Commission have not had a meeting, and Mr. Kniper was here, but we've already talked. He doesn't have anything since they haven't had a meeting. Moving on to item 9E, Parks Committee, and we have Mr. Chamberlain.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you tonight. We did not hold a general meeting in the month of July due to COVID, but I'd like to recap what's happened since the last council meeting. Our focus has been primarily working with Public Works and with City Hall with regards to moving our open task list forward. Up to date, Mr. Mayor, we'd like to at least give you an update on ordinance number 24 at September's meeting. That has to do with the rates for the park facilities. We think we'll be able to have something to give to you at that time. Over the last 30 days, highlights on Paul Davis Park. If some of you had a chance to go out and take a look at it, there's been a lot of activity. There was a question raised about are the people going to the parks. I would say yes, there has been. They are using it, because of COVID, obviously, getting a chance to get out and get fresh air. There's not a time that I haven't been out at Paul Davis Park where I haven't seen walkers going around either with their dogs on a leash or going ahead and actually just taking a walk around. 4 mature trees, though, located near the playground area of Paul Davis Park, have been removed. They were flagged because of either potential safety hazard due to broken branches or limbs near the playground area, or they were in poor overall health. They were actually removed by a third-party vendor working with Public Works. The picnic tables, stationary grills, and concrete pavements and other items were power washed by Public Works in the last month. The baseball field and the infield has been dragged several times, working to bring overall condition of the baseball diamond back to more desirable status. And on the back 40, basically, at Paul Davis Park, Public Works continues to clean the area out. And when Eric had indicated that they were doing stump removal, they probably ground about 150 stumps so far, and we still have about another 100 to go. So they've been doing a lot of work and hoping to get that majority of that done by Friday of this week, or if not Monday. Pavilion 3, we have a new stationary grill installed, and that area was power washed, and a picnic table has been added to that pavilion. So we continue to build out the facilities for our community. The wildflower meadow, if you get a chance to look at it, while the flowers are not blooming anymore, as the sits, we are putting in a wooden fence around the front part of it to make it more desirable and more picturesque for photo ops and come next spring when the bluebonnets come out again. Park Lane, they added road base to smooth out or level the parking lot to where it meets Bat Cave Road, so we don't have anyone doing a dip as they go off the road to go into the park. And over the next 30 days, we're looking to finish the wooden fence at the Meadows, get Pavilion 3 landscaping underway, continue building out the walk / nature trail, just very basic fundamental stuff, and continue to improve the condition of the baseball diamond. And also, we're looking to do 2 new dog stations for waste removal at Paul Davis Park and also at Park Lane. As far as the task list goes, since the beginning of the year, we've created 110 tasks working on the parks. That's up from 4 last month. 32 of them have already been closed year to date. 13 are in open status. It's down from 34 from last month. And 27 or 25% of them are underway status, which means they're actively being worked as we talk at this point. That brings a total of about 40 open tasks that are under management for us today, working either with Public Works or the Parks Committee working on items. And Mr. Mayor, at this time, I'd like to turn it back to you guys.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Starting over on the right side, questions or comments for Parks Committee?
Just a comment. Y'all are busy.
We need the fresh air.
Yeah, well, that's an incredible amount of work.
Well, Public
I had
Works has
no
been
idea.
doing all the
That's
heavy
great.
lifting. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Ma'am. Sir. Ma'am.
Yes, thanks for keeping everything rolling, Rod, Mr. Chamberlain. I would like you, not now, but to follow up with me on the the weed treatment process that we're using, the company, because I know for a fact they have been, I haven't been there this week, but they've been missing the sticker weeds and so on up by the ball diamond
Right.
on the back and so on. I'd like to know more about what we're paying them to do and are they doing it?
Okay, definitely. Let's circle back with you.
But seriously, thank you you guys are really keeping it all rolling. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chamberlain, what a great update. A lot going on, and we really appreciate all of you folks on the Parks Committee are doing. Thank you so much. Volunteer Garden Ridge, it's in a lull because nobody's able to get together much, but we still, as you've heard, there's a lot of volunteers working on stuff with the library, with the parks, and we've had some folks up here helping intermittently. But Ms. Kane, you have the hours for this period?
114 hours during the month of July.
Also, Dr. Miller, you're out there, but I'm not going to ask you to get up unless you want to. Do you need to get up for it? Do you want to get up?
No, sir.
For the record, he said no. The only other thing is I'm going to hand the floor over to Councilwoman Bauer. She's got one thing to add to this report.
That's post office?
No,
No.
What is that about?
families.
Oh, thank you, sorry. Post office is later, I couldn't read it. Yes, you'll see my letter up there. I wrote this back in June, actually, after the most recent road clearing, and I didn't get it in the proper place for the July meeting. I just wanted to give kudos to Megan and Rob Erickson, actually, for they continue to organize road cleanup on Nacogdoches, taking their lives in their hands. And but anyway, they do just a super job. And that particular time, I had noticed sacks and sacks. I mean, it seemed like an inordinate amount of trash. You just wonder, what are people doing? I mean, they found carpet and everything else, and they really do a good job. And I will say that, as with many of our projects, not everyone that works on that is actually a citizen of Garden Ridge. They just believe in what we're doing and they help out. So hopefully Megan and Rob are watching this. But if not, just my kudos to them for continuing to do it.
Thank you, ma'am. Starting after you, keeping in this direction. Anything else for parks? Okay, thank you. Or excuse me, that was volunteer. I said parks. I meant volunteer Garden Ridge. Okay, moving on to item number 10, approvals, authorizations. Following items up for discussion, consideration, action. And it's, first of all, we're going to start with the 2020 tax rates. So you have been given a few pieces of information, and I'm gonna step you through a few things. The first piece of this is we're under a new system. So if you happen to memorize and even understand, which you would be in the minority, but if you happen to memorize and understand the old terms, throw them all out because they don't apply anymore. We have new terms. And if this piece of paper that you were given, blue heading on it, this is the one that went through, it's no longer effective tax rate, it's now no new revenue tax rate, rollback no longer exists, it's voter approved tax rate, M&O is no new revenue maintenance and operations, so all of that stuff. It actually, most of them kind of make sense anyway, but you gotta read through this to make sure you understand. And we're gonna go through some of it because it's how we are presenting to you this sheet that you have in front of you with the tax rate proposal. But some perspective, some other perspective I'd like to offer you. You also got a sheet that has area tax rate comparison. And no matter who you are, no matter where you live, you always think you're being taxed more than everybody else. It's kind of it's like a right of an American citizen to say that you're always being taxed more than everybody else. But here are the facts. We can't get 2020 because, well, heck, we don't even have a 2020 yet. But we got a list of 2019 that you have in front of you, and you see, starting from up at the top all the way to the bottom, with 0.75 or 75 cents for the top city up there. And as you go down, you see a lot of cities, as you know very well. Universal City at 60 cents, San Antonio 55, Schertz at 51 cents. Cibolo and Converse at 49 and change, New Braunfels at 48, continuing down, you go almost all the way to the bottom to Garden Ridge, and the only ones that are less than us are Chavano Park, Selma, because they have over $20 million in sales tax, and Bulverde, and I'm not sure why. I'm really proud of this, and you should be too. Again, I know there are people that live here that say that we're taxing them to death. But at 32 cents, it's where I would build another house if I was going to build a house. I wouldn't build it at the top of the list there at 75 cents and 60 and 50 cents. 32 cents in this community seems like, obviously I'm biased, but it seems to be a pretty good bargain. That said, another reason why I wanted to point out the 2019 32 cents, or also known as 0.321106, is cutting to the chase. That's what I'm recommending you consider for the next rate. Now, if you look at the sheet that if you don't wear glasses, you probably wish you did now because the print's so small. But a couple things, again, perspective. A little bit of history. On here, it just has the history of 2019 on here, but I'm going to go back a little bit further just so to remind you. The 2019, our last year's tax, the tax we're living under right now, was 321106. And the year prior to that was 323146. In other words, it was a little bit higher. The reason it went down from 323146 to 321106 was our debt rate went down a little bit because we're paying off some of our debt. Good thing. The year prior to that was the same as 2018, 323146. So for 2 years in a row, because I've tried really hard and driven the staff crazy to say that we won't. We'll do everything we can to not raise the rate, tax rate. So 2016, it was 318305. We did raise it in 2017, and then since then, we've either kept it where it is or lowered it. And again, cutting to the chase, recommendation, then I'm going to explain why it's our recommendation, is to leave it at the rate that we have at 2019, which is 321106, and you know where that rack and stacks over there. So now if you look at this sheet, what you're going to see is with the new terms that you should get used to, which were on that blue sheet, the first one is the no new revenue rate. That no new revenue rate is what it says. It's, okay, so what is the tax rate to produce no new revenue from the year prior? Well, if you think about it, when you are raising expenses, when you are raising people's salaries 3%, when you're we're getting raised expenses of benefits, to have no new revenue would mean something would have to give, right? Now, the good news for us is because of the way we're managing things and the way our debt rate's going, that we can not go with a no new revenue and give people raises that they should get and all that kind of thing. So that's what that first one is, a no new revenue. Now, if we were to go with that no new revenue rate, it would be 310138 is what you see there on the third major line down. That would, and it's not written on here, you'd have to do the math, but I'll tell you, the math is, it would net us a minus $6,643 less than what we actually budgeted. So if we went with the no new rate and lowered the tax rate, we would end up having to cut $6,600 and change out of the budget that you've submitted to the Secretary. Second one is the voter approval rate, and that's kind of almost going in the other direction. And that voter approval rate is, if you do that or lower, you do not have to go to the voters to get it approved. And if you recall, the rate used to be the rate we could increase was 8%, and now it's 3.5%. So in plain English, the voter approval rate is the no new revenue rate plus a 3.5% increase. Okay, that is within the bounds that the legislature said is you can do that as a city, and you don't have to do a referendum. You don't have to do a referendum for it. That rate would end up being higher, obviously, than what we have now. Not by much, but a little bit. And it'd be 322196. That would net almost $53,000 of an increase in revenue over what we budgeted. So not much more, and you'll see why in a second. But so that is, again, because I want to give you in context of the new terms and the new boundaries that the legislature gave us. The next thing that you see listed on here is the de minimis rate. And that's the one where they say you can go to 500,000 more for our size city, 500,000 more income, or revenue, I should say. And of course, that rate, or up to that rate, would require, or I shouldn't say require, it would open council to a petition to have an election for that rate. That rate would be all the way up to 377,712. So that's that. Now, the last line there is a tax rate proposed. This is the rate that I'm bringing to you, proposing to you. It's using the current tax rate. And that's the simplest way I can say it. What it is 321106, which is what we have now. It will net an overage in the budget of $51,000. And I'll tell you that that's good, but in context, we had pulled out some stuff out of the budget that we were looking at if we ended up with our over-conservative nature being able to deal with. And one of them is we have some work to do on our public works facility and bringing public works and water together, and I can talk to you about more another time, but since it's in the budget, I didn't bring it up then. But so 321106, last year's rate covers the budget plus some of what we're looking to use for the public works facility. Now, how does that affect somebody who lives here? And that's what you see over on the right side, and I think this is important to be able to be conversant in. The average home rate in 2019 was 488,607 in the city of Garden Ridge. The average home rate, home value, according to our appraisal district, now is 495,757. The average taxes you see on the upper right, most upper right number on that sheet, the taxes paid on the average home, I should say, was $1,569.14. That home, if it is now if you were to own that average home, your taxes would then become $1,591.90, which would be a $22.76 increase because of your home value going up. So the logic of this, and I'm going to make fun of myself because I was sitting there and I go, okay, but what if your home value didn't go up? How much would your taxes go up? And Ms. Kane looked at me and said, they wouldn't go up. And I looked at her and said, oh yeah. so because it's the same rate. So if your home value doesn't go up, your taxes obviously would stay exactly what they were the year before. If you are falling into the average home value, that's how much it would be. The average home value nets a $22.76 for the year increase in taxes because of the increase in the value. So that is, in a nutshell, where we are with this. And my recommendation to council is the 321106, the same rate that we had last year, and lower than the 2 years prior to that. I'll open it up now for discussion and questions. Start over the right side. Sir, left side. Okay, so the next thing is, this is not to approve it, but this is to start the process, as you well know. And we'll talk about that process here in just a minute. But where we are on this is, I need a motion to propose this rate so we can start the public hearing process. If I could get a motion for that, please.
I move that we approve the proposed 2020 tax rate of 0.32116.
It's got to be 06. Not 16, but 06.
It was 0.32116, right?
06.
I'm looking at 16 right here. That's what you have on the paper. It's 06.
I'm sorry, sir, I don't know where you're looking, but even on the paper, it says 3211. Yeah, that's not yeah, that's a typo. But look.
Okay, you want 0?
Look at where it says proposed on the line above there. That is just a note, and there's a typo in the note. But the actual proposal says 321106. Sorry for that confusion.
Oh.
Okay, proposed tax rate of 0.32106. Is that right? Okay, let me write this down.
Do you see where I circled? That's the proposal.
I don't have that piece of paper.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
Let me have your piece of paper. The number I circled on your piece of paper, sir.
Okay.
It's our fault for putting that other number down there that was a typo.
Okay, the proposed tax rate of 0.321106.
Bingo! So I have from place 3 a motion to propose the tax rate for 2020 tax year of 321106. Can I get a second?
Second.
From place 4, I have a second. Now, in this case, the way this has to go is it's a by record vote. So I'm going to go down the line, and if you would, give me your vote, yay or nay. Vote, place 1? Aye. Place 2? Aye. Place 3? Yes. Place 4?
Aye.
And place 5?
Aye.
I have five yeses. It is unanimous. Thank you very much. Ms. Kane, if you would explain the tax rate, public hearing, and adoption process from here.
Okay. The public hearing for the tax rate is scheduled for August 26th, 6 p.m., and you can vote at that meeting to adopt the tax rate. So we may be able to conclude all the work that needs to be done concerning tax rates may be able to be concluded on August 26th.
Anybody have any questions on the process? And I just want to put in a public kudo. We got the numbers that were required for us to have before we could do this, at least half a week later than we should have, and actually just
Right.
in the beginning of this week. And so Ms. Kane applied the expertise in a scramble to make all this happen and for us to have the numbers, because we obviously had it on the schedule, on the agenda, and we intended to do it today. But so not only did she have to be patient, making sure I understood everything, but then she also had to be patient with the appraisal district that was considerably late in getting the information to us. So Nancy, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Moving on to item 10B. And now this is discussing COVID and stuff surrounding that. First off is the status and pertinence to Garden Ridge and what's going on. And again, my purpose in this is we're all on the same page, as well as anybody watching this can kind of keep track of what's happening. So since our last council meeting, emergency declaration was reissued. As you may recall, it's a 30-day thing. State has to reissue it. And as the state does it, that automatically re-ups ours, because ours, as you passed, says that as long as there's an emergency declaration with the state, we have one. Then also on July 2nd, GA 29, the executive order from the governor that put out that the requirement for mandatory face coverings for 10-year-old or more. Lots of exceptions. That's available on our webpage as well as in a million other places. But if you have any questions about that, remember it's face coverings if you're unable to maintain the 6-foot separation. And then there's the household things, and then there's exceptions to all that. And there's lots of them. It bears reading if you haven't read it. Next thing is on the same day, the governor also issued a proclamation which necessitated a prohibition on outdoor gatherings of more than 10 people. So no more than 10 people can get together. He did, however, put a proviso in there that allows the chief executives of a political subdivision, be it a city or be it a county, in the county areas, to provide exceptions and approve exceptions. And as an aside, that's exactly what I issued tonight for the vigil, was an exception. On July 31st, and if you're paying attention, and probably at least half of you are, there's a lot of swirling about schools and who has the authority and everything else. And first, the Attorney General put out an opinion, but then it was backed up on July 31st with a joint statement from the governor, lieutenant governor, the Speaker of the House, and the chairs of both the Senate and House Education Committees, all together saying, reaffirming that the authority to make decisions of when and how schools safely open rests with the constitutionally and statutorily established local school boards. So health and boards and other executives and other people in government can't tell the constitutionally and statutorily established school boards what to do, is essence what that is. That's it for Texas. In the county, the day we met was when the last order was put out, and that was establishing health and safety plans in businesses and all that, and reiterating the CDC guidelines. The numbers, if you've been watching the numbers, and there's a lot of chasing of the numbers, and it's all over. The chasing of numbers is all over the nation, probably all over the world. But the numbers by the county's statement are flattening out again, and there were some spikes because of some issues with assisted living facilities, unfortunately. But nevertheless, we are continuing to have our teleconferences, and things are moving in the right direction, and still an emphasis on complying with the law and complying with CDC guidelines. And then I'll tell you a little story. So I'm sitting here and I'm listening to what's happening with some of these assisted living facilities. And so on July 14th, I called the county public health folks and I said, hey, so what have we been doing about the 2 assisted living facilities here in this community? Because you recall, the first time all this came around was nursing homes. And that was when I got the education that what we have is not nursing homes. And so I got beat down on leave us alone, you don't have nursing homes. So now I go, well, wait a minute, well, we do have assisted living facilities, and what are we doing about it? And the answer I got was the epidemiologist will reach out to them tomorrow, unquote. I read that, I wrote that down exactly the way it was said to me. So, you know, you can read between the lines of that one, but that was the answer I got. The back channel answer that I got from somebody else was, no, they haven't checked. So, but to their credit, within one day, the emergency management folks reached out to them. They gave them a flood of PPE, all kinds of suits and gloves and masks and all kinds of other gear to make sure that they were well equipped with all that, and began a process to get them tested. And it was a process, and the testing was delayed for a little while for a multitude of reasons, but I've been asking, and now I'm becoming a pest about this. And yesterday, I got an answer that 4 employees and 8 residents tested positive in our city. Of the 2 facilities, remember we have Sedalis, and then we have Garden Ridge Assisted Living. Now Garden Ridge, and there's a confusion with some people because Garden Ridge Assisted Living also owns Garden Ridge, I can't remember what they call it. It's another facility, but it's actually not in Garden Ridge. But nevertheless, we still identify with it, and that company owns both, or those folks own both of them. But so the answer was, it was 4 employees and 8 residents. But that was when they were tested a while back. So I went back to them and I said, okay, but what about right now? And first of all, they clarified and said that none of the people that tested positive actually had symptoms. Apparently none of them were actually, exhibiting anything. They were all asymptomatic. But some had already gotten second tests because it's been so long now, and they've been negative. So the number's been parried down to 2 staff members, 8 residents, that are still being isolated and treated as positive, but none of them are quote-unquote sick. That's the status of the county and our interaction with the county on COVID. Now, for our city, real quick, Ordinance 227, Public Health Emergency Declaration, as I said, is still in effect. The amendment that we did is still in effect. And then our facilities. Our library is still open at 50%, still working all of that. City Hall, as you heard, is open 9 to 12. Parks and restrooms are open. We're still doing accommodating if people can't socially distance in the Bluebonnet Room and they have the Bluebonnet Room booked, we'll let them do the Wildflower Room, assuming it's available, and it should be most of the time, to be able to socially distance. We're ensuring that happens. We're taking bookings now for the Community Event Center and as long as they can socially distance, and the Park Pavilion, but remember outside it's 10 people unless they get a waiver, and I've given only 1 waiver, and that's for the thing tonight. Still encouraging CDC practice, safe practices, and we have kind of re-upped our awareness on staff and everything because you get kind of weary of it, and so we're making sure that we all keep vigilant on that. A couple other things, blood drive with the Lions again. This one's scheduled for August 29th, and 9 to 3 p.m. at the Community Event Center. And again, it's August 29th, 9 to 3 p.m. And another thing that's COVID-related for the city, it's not going to happen for a while, but I want to give you a heads up. The election. The November election has early voting October 13th to the 30th. It's going to 3 full weeks of early voting this time. It's going to be in our Community Event Center in the Wildflower Room. And the reason why is that's the best place that we can use to ensure that there's some good social distancing, that everything can be socially distanced. And we can handle if there's got to be a serpentine line and everybody being 6 feet apart, kind of like if you gave blood, they did the same thing with giving the blood. So we're just making sure that we can accommodate the early voting as well as the election on November 3rd with the social distancing. So that's what's going on in our city. So those are the state, the county, and the city COVID related. You got from the individual departments, department heads, what's going on with them. Does anybody have any comments or questions on COVID, landscape operations, anything else? Starting on the right side. Sir, ma'am, sir.
And on, I think, November 4th, if we have the total of voting in and everything, the COVID-19 should be over with.
That was bad timing. I had a mouthful of water. Anything else, sir? Sir, ma'am. Okay, moving on to item 10B2, Ordinance 210. Okay, so this is on here because Ordinance 210 is the ordinance for our commissions. And as you recall, a few years ago, we worked up and approved the commission ordinance that requires commissioners' attendance at their meetings and all that you expect, but also requires all commissioners to attend 2 of these meetings, council meetings, in a year. not too heavy of a load, but we think it's important for them to see this end of the operation and all that. There's one thing about it that's interesting, and we figured this out a few months back, okay, maybe a while back before then. We just haven't gotten around to changing the ordinance, but the ordinance doesn't actually have any enforcement, for lack of a better term, mechanism. So if you don't do it, it doesn't say, hey, if you don't do it, you're off the commission. So we're working on that. And we will bring that to you. I bring that up for full disclosure because now what I'm going to ask you to do is, in essence, by consensus, waive a requirement that doesn't have any mechanism for enforcement anyway. And that is, I'm asking you by consensus to agree that commissioners right now, because of COVID, a lot of them, for a multitude of reasons, are not coming out in public very much, and we certainly don't want to mandate that they come out in public because of this, but it is an ordinance, and I just wanted to run this by you to see if you, by consensus, would agree to waive this during this COVID public health emergency. So does anybody have any comments or questions about that right now? And I'm looking to the right, looking to the left, no questions. So by consensus, are you okay with us not enforcing something that we don't have to enforce anyway? But we do want to make sure that commissioners know that they don't have to feel that they're not complying with this, because we're saying we're in the middle of COVID right now. We good with that consensus? Yeah. I got head nods from everybody. Thank you very much for that. Yes. And 10B3, possible action on related matters of COVID. We always put that on there in case there's something else that you think's going on that you want to bring up about any actions the city should be taking related to COVID. So I'll start over on the left side. Is there anything that you would like to have a discussion about and possibly act on? Sir.
I do have a question, maybe a little bit off of that, but are we going to get reimbursed for keeping hours of COVID and losses from COVID? Is the government going to reimburse small cities for?
Absolutely, and that's
Okay.
part of what Ms. Ford was talking about tonight.
Okay.
And there's a lot of categories and there's intricacies to that. And by all means, give her a call. Well, that's terrible. I just offered up that she's going to sit on the phone and talk to you about this. But no, in all seriousness, you really should. If you want to know about it, she is, and she can send you a bunch of information as well. But the quick answer is yes. Okay, ma'am.
This is the vaguest of all questions, but is there anything the city should be doing in anticipation of the school opening up? I can't imagine that we're not going to have some spikes in our community, but I don't know how we prepare for that or don't prepare for that, or.
It's vague, but not that vague, and it's a good question, but there's really nothing, I mean, we're doing what we can do right now, and support the families doing it, and watch out, watch what's going on. And maybe this is an opportunity to mention something that some of our staff saw and we worked on. We have some people that get together at that really wonderful little area right outside the library. And what we saw was that they weren't wearing masks. And so we put some signs up there and said, hey, you're outside, you're in close proximity, because they're sitting across basically a little table, picnic table from each other. And we're saying, if you're not in the same household, you need to be wearing masks. And after we put the signs up, every time I walk by there, they were wearing masks. So it can be directly attributed to our librarian saying, hey, are we doing anything about this? And staff having a discussion in one of our staff meetings about it and us doing something. So I bring that up to say that look for that kind of thing. If you see something, tell us, because, a good percentage of the time that people are going to be doing stuff they may not even know they're doing wrong, So tell us, and we'll look for that stuff, and we'll try to take care of it. Does that answer a little bit? Yeah, agree. Thanks. Sir, do you have anything? Okay. Moving on. Item number 11, updates. City Administrator, you have the floor for your updates.
City Council has a special meeting August 13th, which will budget public hearing as well as the public hearings on the variances and special use permit for the Garden Home development. Also, on August 26th, there will be another special city council meeting that will be the public hearing on the proposed tax rate.
Any questions or comments on that right side? Left side?
Is this on our website, Nancy? The schedule?
Is the schedule on, okay.
Thank you.
On the calendar?
Should be.
Good question.
Yes, it is on the calendar, yes.
Anything else over on the left side? Okay. Number 11A2, Oakwell.
I'm going
Welcome,
to,
Mr. Lohman.
Hello, hello. Very good. So the Oak project is continuing to move forward. This is the latest revised version of the trench path. There's a button here. Yeah, there we go. Another tree has been identified having it in this area, so the path had to be moved over here. And the contractors are going to come out and revisit the augmentation of the path to adjust their bids for that reason.
That all I got?
I'm sorry?
Are you good?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, that said, questions, comments for Mr. Lohman on Oakwell and what we're doing about the Oakwell over by PD Park? Right side? Go ahead.
Yeah, I got a question. If you look where it says 9025, you got that red line across there for the proposed, yeah. And then down below that, you got the green existing trench. And everything is enclosed except on the upper left. On 9015, along the border there, there's, is there anything to trench along that side?
The spacing has to do with the fact that there's a large gap between the trees and there's no way they can be connected by roots.
Oh, okay.
There's a large enough span in between the oak trees in the area that they're too far from each other to be connected that way.
Thank you.
Eric, have we lost any trees because of this yet?
Yes, sir. One of the large trees that was removed from the park was one of our big oaks in front of the main original slide equipment at the playground was a victim of oak wilt.
Okay, thank
And
you.
we have several others that are affected, but they're not terminal yet. They're just
Gone yet, okay.
affected by it.
Sir. Ma'am. Well done, thank you. Appreciate it. Ma'am, back to you on 11A3.
I wanted to report to council that the investigation report on the citizen complaint against Chief Eberhardt and the officers of Garden Ridge Police Department is completed. I have signed the report, and it is finalized.
And so, council, you had been updated on this before and discussed a letter of support. By law, though, that discussion was in a executive session, and that can't be a decision. So I have to bring it out to public for you to express your druthers on the decision to do a letter of support. Don't have to have a motion necessarily. I can just get consensus that we'll write the report and y'all will sign it, but it has to be out here. It can't be anywhere else. So everybody agree that we'll do their letter? Yeah, we'll learn that. Perfect. Thank you very much. I do have consensus. Okay, 11B, City Council projects. And we have one City Council project. Councilwoman Bauer, you have the floor.
Back to me. Now it's the post office. Unless anyone think this is post office big picture, the agony and the ecstasy, that would be Mr. Lancy's job. This has to do with, for those of you who remember a few months ago, I reported on going to the Shirts post office and noting that the counter guys weren't wearing masks. Then I got up to the counter and the guy told me they didn't have to wear a mask because they had a shot. And of course I just let it go. Let's just put it that way. So I had to go back to send a registered, I had to go there to send a registered letter about 2 weeks ago. This time they're wearing masks. But I got up to the counter after waiting. There were a number of people in line. Got up to the counter with one of the registered letter forms that you have to fill out. So I said, you don't have any more out there? And he said, we don't have any more. And I said, you don't have any more? He said, you can't send that. And I said, well, why don't you have more? He said, they won't send us any. They're out. And they don't send us any. And I said, do you ever think maybe you ought to put a note up on the door to let people know that you're out of these forms? He said, they won't let us do that. So I said, okay, so you're a government agency. You work for us, and you can't even put a sign on the door so that people don't wait in line, in COVID, I might add. And he said, no, we're not allowed to do that. He said, even that gray door over there where sometimes you can get help, we can't do that either. Great. So anyway, just my recommendation is don't ever go to the Schertz post office again. I hold out hope that Cibolo and New Braunfels have, to me, have always been more, shall we say, professional or knowledgeable or whatever you want to call it. So the shot didn't work, so they're wearing masks, but they don't have any supplies. That's just for everyone's benefit. Don't go there.
Okay, on the left, on the right side, any questions or comments for Councilwoman Bauer? Anything?
First of all, the post office is no longer a government entity. It hasn't been since the mid-'80s.
Okay.
It's a private entity, but it's still controlled. Their rates and everything are still controlled by the Senate and the Congress.
That's correct. You're right.
And that's why they're going under. That's why it has such problems. Their attitude, I don't know where the hell they get that, though. 'Cause I have never
They get
gotten
that from
anything
the Congress.
positive out of anybody.
They get that from the Congress.
Any last words on that? Okay. Thank you very much. Moving on to Mayor's Projects, Communication Report. A few things. First of all, we're number 2. We're still number 2 in the census. 87%, Mountain City, they still are beating us. They're at 88.5%. So, okay, everybody, that's 13% of the people that the census people think should be participating in our city. So shake the trees and see if we can get them involved. We moved up in the nation, though. I'm not sure how, but we did. We're number 77, not even tied for 77. Number 77 out of, think about it, over 20,000. So that's pretty cool. Number 77 in Old Nation. Okay, no movement on sign status. We're working with TxDOT on what you heard from our engineers, but no movement on anything with the sign. We're not moving it yet. Again, one of the reasons why is because if we do move it, we have an issue with sight distance until they actually do the carve out. So we want to leave it there as long as we can. Next thing is Comal County put together, our Comal County judge put together a Comal County School Task Force. That's what it was called. And he asked all the mayors and some of his staff, all the school administrators, the school principals, and a lot of other people, and then some school board folks, private schools, public schools. We spent a half hour introducing everybody, and then we spent 2 hours talking. But it actually, as long as it was, what it did was help put all the schools, be it private, public, New Braunfels ISD versus Comal ISD, all maybe not doing exactly the same thing, but at least having a situational awareness on what everybody was doing. So it was, I don't want to say time well spent. If it would have been half as long, it would have been time well spent. But it was still, it was a useful conference. Another one is for communication. Some you're aware because I CC'd you on some of this stuff, but because of the incident at Easy Mart, we've done news releases, pictures and video releases. I've had multiple discussions and done some interviews, and WAI came out here and actually did a non-camera interview with WAI. But so, and I've communicated with news outlets I didn't know existed, but OAI 4, KENS 5, KSAT 12, KBB 29, KTSA radio and web, Univision, Telemundo, San Antonio Express News, New Braunfels Herald Zeitung. All of them have been communicating. They've gotten stuff from us, and they've gone back and forth with asking more questions. and us giving them what we could. I really put a lot of effort and emphasis on it because I really wanted to get the pictures, the video, the Crime Stoppers reward, upped reward. Full disclosure, I'm on that board, but I called the president and said, hey, this is a really good case for upping the reward. She immediately sent everything that was required out to the board. It was approved in minutes, and so we could put that on our press release that it was a $10,000 reward instead of the standard $5,000. So, and as you heard from the chief, getting tips, getting phone calls, and we don't want to leave any stone unturned on that. That's it for communication, and then 11C2, citizen contact. The chief mentioned the alarm letter. I've gotten letters, emails, phone calls about the alarm letter. Yeah, it was a mistake. The chief is working to rectify that. He didn't give the excuse. Well, it's a reason that I will say is a darn good reason. The letter should have gone out already, but as you heard, there's a few other things going on right now with crime and what our police department's doing. So the letter should go out in a matter of days. I tell you that because you may have constituents that have complained to you as well about the letter that was strongly worded, that was kind of a 0 to 100, but the chief has taken care of it, and but I've gotten a lot of letters on it, a lot of questions on it. Another one is the reason why you had in your consent agenda the ordinance 11, and it was because of the flagpole. Had a guy contact me, and we ended up talking, and he said, I'm putting up $150 flagpole, and I'm gonna have to spend $125 for a permit to do it. And it seems a little much. And so we looked into it and said, yeah, but we need to charge something because there is a reason that you have to have a permit for a flagpole, because we need to make sure that setbacks and flagpoles don't fall in other people's yards or in the roads and all that kind of thing. So there is a reason to have the permit, but we lowered it, you lowered it tonight through the consent agenda to $50. But that was a conversation I had with that individual, and he was very helpful. Also a lot of questions about the GoFundMe and some of that stuff that's been surrounding that. But it's been good. Last I looked, it was over 350 people had been donors to that, and expressing the support from the community has been strong. That's it for mayor's projects. Any comments or questions on any of those things? Starting on the left side.
The gentleman with the flagpole, why did he, if he didn't want the flagpole up enough to pay that fee, or, I mean, if you want the flagpole that bad, he's gonna have some costs involved.
I understand, but his point was that for
I understand, it's the
$150 flagpole,
between
it
the
was
two
almost
numbers.
as much to get the permit for
I
it.
understand, but he doesn't want it bad enough, then.
Well, he was trying to be a good citizen and affect some change, and you approved that change tonight. So he did well. He wasn't a disgruntled. In fact, he was very helpful and polite about it. So it was a pleasure to actually work with the guy on it.
With somebody that's reasonable.
Yes.
I understand.
You know where I'm going there. Anything else over here on these topics? Yeah, okay. All right, discussion on future agenda items over on the right side. Anything that you would like on a future agenda? Ma'am. Okay, citizen comment period. Item 13, limited 20 minutes total. You have 2 minutes. You don't have to have signed up, but when you're done, would you please go over to the table and put your name and address? Normally you'd go over to the city secretary, but we're doing distancing, so we'll just do it over at the table. So come on up. Same other rules apply. It doesn't count for your 2 minutes if you got something until you start talking, but we need your name and address on the record. Anyone? Once, twice, 3 times. Closing out item number 13, moving on. Item number 14, reports, comments, mayor and city council members, limited to the things that are on this list. Starting on the left side. Anything? Sir?
Over the last couple of months, we've got at least 4 new Eagle Scouts in our community. Somewhere in here, I'd like to bring them in front of council, but not while we're still under COVID restrictions. I don't think it's a great idea. But I thought I'd mention that up.
Absolutely.
November 4th.
Anything else for item 14? Sorry, 14? Ma'am? Sure. Okay, do we try to get this executive session done? I think we do. We're gonna adjourn, recess to executive session. If you're keeping track, we might actually be able to make this and not have to recess to go to the Easy Mart. So 8:04 PM is the recess, and can we go straight to it? Okay, we're going to plan executive session time of it's 8:05 now, sorry. It's 8:05, planned executive session time of 8:06. We are, and we are doing it here. So actually, it's going to have to probably be 7, because y'all are going to have to leave. And to remind everyone, the reason why you have to leave is because we can't do social distancing in the back. We have to do it in here. But we don't intend for this executive session to last that long, but you're going to have to go out of this room. So at 8:05, we are recessed, and we are...